building dreams in the neon. Frank's World. Oh, Frank's World. Yeah. Spin the data, let it swirl. Quantum leaps, AI streams. Frank's World. It's the dream. It's the dream.
Well, good morning, everyone. At least if you're hitting this side of the planet, good afternoon, good evening on different side of the planet. My name is Frank Lavinia, and as you can tell, I'm making progress on my office redesign, um, which obviously includes now this fancy whiteboard that I got from a former colleague at Microsoft, actually, who lived. He was remodeling his basement or something like that, and he's like, "Hey, I got this giant whiteboard. Do you want it?" And I was like, "I'll take it." And he lives next, next couple of towns over, so I was able to drive that. So shout out to you, David McAgon. Which I'm not sure if he's still at Microsoft. Your whiteboard lives on in legacy. It actually was where my office used to be, but now that I moved here and I still don't worry. I still have the monitors. They're still there. They're not plugged in yet. I'm still in the process of setting things up because as cool as all those monitors are, logistics are no joke, and the infrastructure is no joke. All right, so a couple things. Yesterday I mentioned Humble Bundle, and again, if you're not following the saga, I had a concussion about actually 3 weeks tomorrow, actually. So I am doing much better, thank you. I do have my blue blocker glasses, which make it a lot easier for me to be on the computer. I do want to show off what's on Humble Bundle. But first, I want to do a quick shout out to a new episode of Impact Quantum with Benita Zazueta and Quantum Risk while waiting. Um, uh, my waiting is the real threat. And the ultimate gist of this, the ultimate gist of this article is, you have to evaluate what your organization's exposure is to quantum induced risks. That's kind of the bottom line up front. And whether that is, breaking of all encryption, whether that's breaking of the whether that's complete disruption for your business. You can tell the sometimes the I turn the key, but the engine doesn't turn. And honestly, kids today probably won't get that reference, right? Because most of the cars that I've had since 2010 have push button remote, have push button starts. And certainly, I think the last time I owned a carburetor car was my 76 Eldorado that I had about 10 years ago. But again, let's not do the sidetrack. Really interesting interview. It is on YouTube. Should be on YouTube like any minute now. So I'm curious what would happen if I launch a video while I do a live stream, and um, that is part one of what I want to show you. The real meat of what I want to show you is Humble Bundle. Now they don't pay me. I just happen to like what they do. I happen to be kind of a believer in their mission. Let's see, can I swap out where I am in that? Perfect. So humblebundle.com is the website, and basically you get deals on books, games, and software. Primarily, if you go to the homepage, it's very clear that it's a gaming site. However, hidden in here is they have different bundles. So they have it broken out into three categories: books, games, and software. Not necessarily in that offer, in that order. Woo! Um, let's see, how do I turn off that caption? There we go. Hide that caption. So some of these things are kind of gamer related, right? So there's, comic book stuff. But if you look around, and my thoughts and prayers go out to a lot of folks at Amazon. Who apparently, they're going to have 16,000. I heard 16,000. I heard 15,000 layoffs. But here's a high tech career playbook bundle, and it's basically how to ace these different exams, how to think like a CTO, tech startup toolkit, system design, the programmer's brain. A lot of interesting stuff. Writing for developers. Writing is honestly, as I tell my kids, that the best thing you can do is learn public speaking. The second best thing you can do is learn how to write effectively. Um, I went to a Jesuit high school and university. I was beaten into submission for writing. So, um, but honestly, like it helps me think. Even if obviously people talk about AI writing, but honestly, just sitting down and having a conversation with an AI is an interesting new modality for writing for me. Even if that conversation is verbal, like well, I wrote an article um, about almost a year ago now on MCP, right? And it on the Red Hat blog. Apparently, it's the top, at least as of a month ago, was the top MCP article on the Red Hat blog, right? There's me. I'm flexing right now, but the the meat of the article was I just kept hearing all this hype about MCP and I couldn't get my head around it. Like, what's the big deal? This is an API, right? It's kind of basically a REST API for LLMs. And I kind of had this back and forth while I was driving the kids around, and it was a very interesting. Um, it was a very interesting take, basically, and I basically took the text that conversation and reworked it into an article, because and people commented that it had a very conversational feel. Well, yeah, it does because that's how it started. So that's another interesting modality to write. But recently, I had to write something, personal letter, and I, for reasons obvious and subtle, I wanted to write it by hand, and I really like that exercise. It was almost like stretching for the mind. So if you take nothing from this live stream other than I look weird or hip in these classes, learn public speaking, learn how to write effectively. They're both kind of the related topics. All right, so they also have an interesting book deal on um, cybersecurity, and I've mentioned this book multiple times on podcasts and things like that. This is Bruce Schneier's. This is the Bible of modern cryptography. I read the first edition. Didn't understand it all the first time I read through it, but it definitely is worth reading. And the cool thing about Humble Bundle is, again, they don't pay me for this, is that for $25 you get 24 books, right? Got to watch them though; they're a little sneaky. They'll always like the default will be like one more, so click through it. If you don't have $25, you can kind of like go back and for $1 you get 8 books, right? Um, so this actually does look like an interesting deal. I may get this one. So they have a number one. So obviously we saw the career one. There's other comic book stuff, so I'm not going to pretend to look at that. Designing gameplay, applied machine learning. What's this one? Graphic novels, AI, CompTIA, AI certifications, right? All reasonably priced, right? So you get prep and practice tests, 21 items for $25. I'm telling you, no matter what happens in the stock market, no matter what happens with Bitcoin, your best investment is always in yourself and your own development, because no matter what you believe in, you are stuck with you for the rest of your life. What happens after that? Who knows? Um, but and they also have software too, right? So there's filmmaker VFX bundle, right? So if you want to get special effects for that, a lot of game development stuff actually. So assets for Unity, um, game dev education, royalty free music, learn to code bundle. right? So these are all kind of courseware. Sometimes there's software like CorelDRAW, right? $40 for CorelDRAW Standard. What is the MSRP is 300. So they always have a deal, and I highly recommend you regularly check this out. This looks interesting. Learn Claude Code and AI development. All here. This is delivered by Zenva. A lot of stuff, and each one of these bundles supports a different charity. In this case, it's Girls Who Code. And so for $25, you get 16 courses. I mean, these are really good deals. No joke. There was one here that looked curious. These are always cute, like Polygon assets, right? So you get like, video game kind of content. So if you want to make your own video game, different themes, right? So this is the Mega Medical Kit. This is How Home Appliances. Give me a thumbs up if you know the Fridge Thief story. I'll have to share that on this platform more. Sci-Fi Sandbox, Survival Food, Megalopolis. Sometimes they'll have like a thing where you can go through it. It'll play like a preview of it. So I mean, really, again, the deals on here are amazing. Whether they're software, whether they're for learning, whether they're for building your own stuff. I'm a big fan. The complete networking bundle. I didn't see this one. So if you want to learn how to do networking and CCNA, right, DevOps, so there's a lot of interesting stuff here. I am a big fan of Humble Bundle. Highly recommend it. And with that, I have I like starting my day off with streaming because it helps me like focus and kind of. I love doing this. If you haven't tell. And if you noticed, I have a nice fancy whiteboard. I have a teleprompter. Big shout out to Grant for approving that. But I think this is great stuff. So be sure, don't worry, the big monitor setup is still there, and lots of cool things are in the works. Just moving slower, but I'm still moving. And each week, I can tell like I'm getting much, much closer to normal. This is not as bad as my 2016 concussion, but this did clear my clock. All right, so with that in mind, I'm going to sign off. I will play the funky outro animation, which I probably should get another one of those. I'm going to update it. Until then, have a good one.